Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. As you know, a proverb a day keeps judgment away. So let's pick it back up where we left off and see what we can glean from the book of Proverbs, chapter 12. You guys are gonna have to forgive me. I'm having a strange hair day. I don't know what's going on with this thing. I tried. It will not go away. Looks like part of my hair exploded. It happens. I'm sure you've all had bad hair days. The Bible doesn't really get into any laws about that, though. Not about bad hair days, but there's some stuff about hair. We're not talking about that today, though. Anyways, let's get into chapter 12. If you guys would like to follow along, I'm in the TS 2009, or you can just listen to my beautiful voice, which I hope is beautiful. I don't know. Maybe it's just regular voice. So anyways, let's get into it. Chapter 12. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. just right out of the gate. Just punch you right in the face with something. Okay, first things first. So whoever loves discipline loves knowledge. So one, Proverbs has already, and honestly a lot of the other Bible, but let's just start with Proverbs, has talked a lot about discipline. Like the Most High rebukes and chastens those whom he loves. And it's the same thing is said by Yeshua in Revelation, right? It's trying to correct you, get you on the narrow path that leads to life, rid out the parts of you that's darkness, filth, not kingdom-worthy parts, right? So you have to be okay with his discipline. You have to be willing. It's a heart posture issue, right? And that's where a lot of people fall flat in the walk, is their heart is not in the right place. They don't want to do it, or whatever other plethora of reasons people come up with. Their heart's not right. They're not willing to submit to the Most High's law. They're not willing to do it willingly, and that's the big issue. Also, this is bringing to mind Hosea 4:6 for me. Let's read that real quick. I know you guys know this one. I quote it all the time, but it's very, very much in line with this as far as I'm concerned. So Hosea 4:6. My people, right? And don't we want to be his people, right? His people do what he asks them to do. And if they don't, well, you guys have been following along in the Torah with me. You know how that one works out. But anyways, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you've forgotten the law of your God, I also will forget your children. All right, so, right, I mean, straight up in line. All right, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you've rejected knowledge, I reject you. And what does it say? Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge. So, again, it's always coming back to that heart posture issue. You either have the proper heart posture, you want to be, a good son or daughter or spouse, however this relationship is to you, because it's different. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, right? But some people need to see Yah as a husband. Some need to see him as a father or something along those lines, right? So the relationship aspect is a little bit different for each person depending on where you're at in your walk and what your situation is, right? We all come from different upbringings, and that's why we all have different understandings of that aspect of the relationship. But either way, the main point remains the same, right? If you are his in whatever aspect, right, you do what he asks. And if you want to be good in that relationship, you do what your other half is asking you to do, right? If you want to be a good child, you do what your father asks you to do, and you don't cup a fit about it. You don't have a bad attitude about it. You say, "Yes, Father, I love you. I'm going to do that," right? If you want to be a good spouse, right? If your spouse says, "This is what pleases me. This is what does not please me. This is what I love. This is what I hate. This is what pleases me," you'd be like, "Okay, well, I want to do those things because that's how you want to be loved," right? You are my spouse. That's what you want. That's what I'm going to do, right? So heart posture issue. And this is why relationships down here fail, right? Let alone heavenly relationships, right? This is why Satan destroys the family unit and sows discord anywhere he can, right? Because if you can't understand a healthy relationship down here, how are you ever going to understand a healthy relationship from up there? You're just not. Everything down here is a picture and a shadow of what is above, so that our tiny little 3-pound human brains can have some kind of comprehension of what is required of us, what this is supposed to look like, what is good and bad in this, right? So if you don't understand a good or a bad relationship down here, just how are you going to understand one up there, right? And this is, again, why Satan wants to destroy the family unit. He doesn't want fathers to be the head of their house. He doesn't want wives to submit. He doesn't want children to be obedient and respectful. And man, he's getting his wish. I mean, even in the mainstream Christian church, the divorce rates are ridiculous. Last time I looked, they were like 60-something% in the church, in the Christian church, of the people that claim to love, honor, and follow the God of the Bible. Still, most of them can't even get an earthly relationship right. So, anyways, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, right? And if his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, it's pretty important that we have that. But it has to be his knowledge, not the world's knowledge. Not what the church tells you, not what your family or friends tell you, what the Bible tells you, what the words on the page say, right? And you have to have that heart posture where you're willing to submit to it and do it. Right? As I don't want to say the lesser in the relationship, but we are. That's what it is. We are in the submissive role. Right? I as a man am submissive to Yeshua and the Father. I am the lesser light in that. Right? And that's again how he sets up the family unit. Right? The wife is the lesser light, the submissive partner in that relationship. Right? It doesn't diminish her capacity or anything. I mean, that's what the world would have you believe, which why I even have to talk about this is because the world wants you to think, oh, it's bad if a woman submits to her husband, or this opens up the door to all kinds of terrible things, abuse and blah, blah, blah. I mean, maybe in a worldly relationship, but if you're in a godly one, it would have the opposite effect, right? It's going to breed more love. Right, when you step into the role that the Most High has ordained you to be in, and you commit to it lovingly with the right heart posture, everything gets better. Everything. Don't believe me? Just try it. Try it for a little while. If you're in a relationship, try to be the husband in the relationship biblically. Try to be the wife in the relationship biblically. Try to be a godly child, right, to your parents. See what happens. If it doesn't get better, whatever aspect of your relation, whatever relationship it is, if it didn't get better by you following the instructions for you in the Bible, in the role you're supposed to be in, I would be shocked. And I wouldn't honestly believe it. Just because I have seen it too many times. When you commit to doing Bible things in Bible ways, your life is going to get better. Undoubtedly. Now, the world might hate you because you're starting to shine bright and the darkness don't like the light, but everything else is going to be better for you. Now, you can't always control other people's actions, right? I'm not going to spend all the time on, well, what if my spouse doesn't believe? What if my parents don't believe? What if, there's a lot of issues there, I know. And if you're struggling with something personally and you want my opinion on it, I'd be happy to render it and try to give you scriptures to back it. Feel free to email me, sheepdogministries@hotmail.com. Love to chat with you about it. All right, but broadly speaking, everything will get better if you just step into your role. Even if you have an unbelieving spouse or parents, if you start shining bright biblically in front of them, they might start to wonder. They might start to be like, what happened to the mouthy, disobedient child I once had? Where'd that person? I like this UI. What changed, right? What happened to the unsubmissive, angry spouse that I used to have? Or what happened to the, cowardice husband, that I once had? Things will get better, right? So, anyways, let's keep going. The next one. But he who hates reproof is stupid. That one's just massively in your face, right? If you don't like Yah's discipline, the Bible literally says you're stupid. And I mean, it's not wrong. Nobody likes to be called stupid, and no one likes to acknowledge that they have, in fact, been stupid. But the Bible says what it says, and you either believe it and you're willing to make the corrections in your life based on what it says, or you don't, and you shouldn't claim to be a follower of the God of the Bible, because then it soils the water for the rest of us, right? Murkies it up, because now you have billions, with a B, billions of people out there claiming to love, worship, and honor the God of the Bible, and they're doing extremely worldly things and not doing what the Bible actually says. And then everybody else looks at that person and is like, oh, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I want no part of that. Right? So they just make everybody else look bad. And that's exactly what Satan wants. This is why he always creeps into the church. And to think that it's new in the Christian church is just not biblical. I mean, read in the beginning of Matthew, there was a demon in the synagogue. Right? A literal demon is what it says in the Bible. So if they were infiltrating the church back then, safe to say they're doing it today. And they're trying to make just you look bad. And everybody that carries the torch of Yah and has the faith of Messiah Yeshua, trying to make you look bad. Trying to muddy the waters, right? Make it a lot harder for people to find the truth. And honestly, I'm going off. I know we're spending a lot of time on one verse. Sorry. Happens sometimes. But I think this is why this massive push for AI is happening right now. I mean, in less than a year since AI has gotten big, I mean, literally everyone, if you go watch any video on YouTube, right, if anything even remotely crazy or interesting or outside of what people consider normal happens, oh, AI is getting ridiculous, AI this, right? And coincidentally, it's all happening right within a few short years of a lot of people waking up to the truth and finding the truth. And I'm not just talking about biblical truths. I'm talking about the lies that the world has been churning out about everything for a long time. It's starting to get exposed, right? And a lot of that helps bring people to the truth, right? If they're on the right path and have the right heart posture, like understanding that NASA lied about where you live can help bring you to the Bible, right? Understanding that, maybe they lied about some of the healthcare stuff. Oh, Yah forbid you say that online. This video is probably going to get flagged already just for saying that. But the fact, they've been lying about all that stuff. They've been lying about the food you eat and the air you breathe and the water you drink. Oh, it's all healthy. It's all fine. And it's not. And there's massive amounts of actual proof. And now, all that's been coming out over the last few years. So what do? They flood the internet with AI stuff. And now you're right back to, I can't tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. No coincidence there, in my opinion. This timing of all of this happening could not be more perfect if we are in the end times. If we are that last Exodus generation, if the end is near, as I think it is, it couldn't have been a more perfect time to flood the internet with AI. So I'm just saying, if you are grounded in the truth, and again, I've said this a lot recently, but if you're watching this video, I probably don't have to worry about you. Like this truth, the biblical truth, the walking in the commandments and the consequences for dropping the ball willfully. I mean, it's just not accepted mainstream. People don't like it. People hate it. People fight against it. Like, if you're here watching this video, I like, you probably already pretty grounded in the truth, because this stuff isn't spreading like wildfire anymore. It was when I first started preaching Torah, 5-6 years ago now. It's crazy. It seems like forever ago, and it seems like not that long ago. All in the same keystroke. But anyways, 5-6 years ago, man, it was spreading like wildfire. It was just blazing across the internet. And nobody had heard of it, and then now, like, everybody's heard of it. Now people know what Torah observance is, although now all they're getting is negative stuff about it. But either way, it was spreading like wildfire. And now it's not. Now people have heard it, people have chosen to reject it, and I think the doors of the ark are closing. My opinion, totally there. So I don't know. But again, couldn't have been a more perfect time to flood the internet with stuff that, again, muddies the water, so it's much harder to find out if this is real or fake or AI generator or whatever. And again, perfectly in line with Satan's plan. Like, I would expect nothing less if we're in the end times. So, anyways, all that to say, he who hates reproof is stupid. Sorry, truth hurts, but now that you know you're stupid, stop being stupid, and do what the Bible says. Get back on that narrow path that leads to salvation, and not that broad path that leads to death. The one that most people are on, and the one that everybody wants to be on because it's big and easy, and it feels good, and itches your ears, and you have a lot of friends that are right there with you. But if all of those people are on the path to hell, not sure that you want them to be your friends. Throwing that out there. But I digress. Verse 2. The good obtains favor from Yah. Again, you have to understand how he defines good. It's not how we define it. It's not your personal opinion about what is good or not. It's not what your church says is good or not. It's not what your favorite pastor or book says. It's what he says is good. And he clearly does that for you in the Torah and all throughout the rest of your canon Bible. Not even going to mention all the times it's in the Apocrypha. But let's just leave it at that. All right, so the good, according to him, his good, obtains favor from Yahuwah, but the man of wicked devices, he declares wrong. And again, he defines wicked for us. So you don't have to make up, and you shouldn't make up your own definition for that. Verse 3, a man is not established by wrongness, but the root of righteousness shall not be moved. Again, he defines righteousness. That's he defined it all for us. I know I have to say that a lot, and again, if you're watching this video, you're probably already grounded in the truth, but I never really know who's going to see these videos. So for the sake of, hey, if this is your first time and you've managed to make it 15 minutes into this video with me, it's very important for you to know that he, as in the Elohim, the God of the Holy Bible, he has defined everything for you so that you don't have to figure out what's right in your own eyes or what's right in the eyes of the men and women around you. He tells you what is righteous and wicked and holy and just and right and wrong and good and bad and all of the things. He defined anything important, anything that can affect your salvation, he, for the most part, clearly defined in here. All right, and again, just for the sake of, because I said for the most part, like it is clearly defined in here. All right, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some gray areas, but it's really more comes down to personal conviction in those things. And I don't believe that your personal convictions have any bearing on salvation unless your personal convictions are like wildly outside of his laws, in which that's not a conviction. You're just choosing to be lawless because he already defined for you. But anyways, anything obviously, that affects your salvation, he defines for you. So that you don't have to run around like, is this something that's, what's going on here? So, anyways, poor choice of words on my part. My bad. I apologize. He does define it for you. And you really need to understand how he defines those things. And when you do understand that, then you're easily going to be able to spot all the lies that you were taught that aren't in keeping with what the Bible actually says. Right? And again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist genius to figure this out. All you need is the ability to read and understand what words mean. And then to do them. That's the key part, to do them. All right, a lot of people read them and acknowledge them, but then just don't do it. And that's, well, not good. All right? Very not good. Read Hebrews chapter 10. All right. But the root of righteousness shall not be moved. His righteousness, how he defines it. And it's keeping of the commandments, very easily determined with scripture. A capable wife is the crown of her husband, but one causing shame is like rottenness in his bones. And again, we talked a little bit about the spouse stuff already, but there's so much in here about what it means to be like a godly wife. Since we're talking about wives in this verse, like if you're a woman, if you're married, the Bible talks a lot about what it means to be a godly wife. It even talks about if your spouse is an unbeliever in the scriptures. right? You can read 1 Peter chapter 3, I believe it's in there. Paul talks a lot about it in Corinthians, and then just all throughout the Bible and in Proverbs, right? Skip ahead to Proverbs 31. That's the kind of wife that you should desire to be, right? Just like I am to desire and your husband is to desire to be the kind of man like Yeshua to the Father, right? I want to be like Yeshua because Yeshua pleased him. So I should want to do what Yeshua did that pleases him because I want to please him because he's my number one, right? He's the person I need to be focusing on. Vice versa, right? So anyways, but one causing shame, and the Bible defines what are shameful things to do as a wife or as just a human being. But the one that causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. Don't be a bad wife. The thoughts of the righteous are right ruling. The counsel of the wrong are deceit. All right. So the thoughts, and remember, the Bible talks a lot about your thoughts too. Yeshua made it very clear that it's not just what you say and do, it's what you think, right? People are always like, oh, Yeshua made the law easier. No, he did not. The Bible I'm reading, he made it harder. He made it very clear that your thoughts are on the line here, which is terrifying. It should terrify you. It should help you walk in the fear of Yah to know those things. But I digress. When Paul said, we need to take every thought captive in order to obey Yah. Right? You have these thoughts, and you gotta try to grab them, and just throw them away. Know that it's not in keep. And I get it. Like, it's hard, right? That is a hard part of the walk, right? Because you'll just have thoughts that just boom, pop right in, and you're like, why did that wicked thought even pop into my head? Not like, surely I can't be the only one that's had that, where you're just sitting there minding your own business, and boom. Just a terribly wicked thought pops into your head, and it's like, where did that come from? Why did I even have that thought? And I'm pretty sure that it's common to humans, like in our fallen state and in this very dark world that we're in. But you gotta try to take those thoughts captive, right? And just try to be better, try to do better, right? And then the more you do it, the easier it gets, just like with everything. Practice makes perfect, right? That's why it says in 1 John, he who practices righteousness is righteous as he is righteous. Right? You have to practice. It's about practicing. Repetitive. Keep doing it. Learn from your mistakes. Take those thoughts captive sooner and longer and better, right? And then the counsels of the wrong are deceit. Well, that's pretty par for the course in this world. Verse 6. The words of the wrong are lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the straight delivers them. And just like real quick, I know I've talked about this previously in our Proverbs study, but you got to understand how Yah sees things when you read something like this, because I know people are bad, right? People are very bad in this world, but it's not like most people have this thought like, oh, I'm going to lie in wait for blood. Like, let's wait for their blood. Right. But here's the thing. If you understand biblically what it means to shed blood, then that person can be having a whole lot of thoughts that are lying in wait for blood without realizing that that's actually what they're doing. Right. Like, oh, hey, let me ease this guy's mind about committing adultery, or ease this person's mind about theft or whatever, let me bring this person out to be a drunkard with me. I don't want them to stop. We have fun together. I want to make sure that they come out with me all the time and get drunk, and we're this kind of partiers together. Maybe not the best examples in the world, but I think you catch my drift, right? If you are facilitating something that leads to death, you're lying in wait for their blood, right? And that's maybe not a conscious thought that person's having. Like, a lot of people that are lying in wait for blood are doing it to their own friends and family, and would never be like, oh, I want you to die. I want your blood. That's not what it is. But they are lying in wait for your blood, biblically speaking, because they want you, and they help you and facilitate you doing things that are going to cause your blood to be poured out. Right? Your blood will be required. It's a sentence of death. right? So they may not realize that that's what they're doing, but that is what they're doing. So a lot of people are doing this, right? Somebody might read this and just be like, oh, well, maybe that was back in the old days when people would hide with swords and stab people on the road and steal their satchels of silver. I mean, yes, I'm sure they do that. They probably still do that. All right? People murder and are killers still to this day. So people do lie in wait for blood that way. But there's more than one way to do that biblically. So, but the mouth of the straight delivers them, right? Mouth of the straight. Well, who's straight? Straight and narrow path. How do you get on that one? How do you become straight? Read your Bibles. The wrong are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous stands. Verse 8. A man is praised according to his wisdom, but the perverted of heart becomes despised. And just a real quick blurb on wisdom, right? I mean, Proverbs is littered with wisdom and what that means. And the apocryphal writings of Solomon that we've been going through, the Psalms of Solomon, the Testament of Solomon, the Wisdom of Solomon. We haven't gone through the Testament of Solomon, or one of those we haven't gone through. We went through Psalms of Solomon and the Wisdom of Solomon. So I'm getting them all twisty-tied in my head right now. But we went through those ones filled with wisdom and what that means. And this new book that we just started reading this last Tuesday, Sirach, utterly just overflowing with wisdom. So just know what that means, right? Know what actual wisdom is, because the wisdom of this world is foolishness before Yah, according to the New Testament, right? And it's true. This world claims to be filled with wisdom. Oh, we know the Big Bang. We know the evolution. We know this, magical force that is there, but we can't prove. Like, they know all these things, right? They know all these things, but they really don't, right? It's all just foolishness. Oh, yeah, we're billions of years old. The Earth's billions of years. We came from little amoebas that grew into bigger amoebas, which grew into this and that and the other. Like, it's foolishness. It really is. Right? They don't understand that what they're teaching as scientific fact, or really, they don't even call it fact. It's still called the theory of evolution, the Big Bang theory, even gravity. It's called the theory of gravity. It's not provable. A theory means it's conjecture. It's a best guess, right? So they'll call it, scientifically backed fact or whatever. It's not. Even their own texts admit that it's not proven, but they teach it as fact. They'll tell everybody it's fact. But either way, I'm just saying they teach it all as fact, but their religion is faith-based. And that's why I call it a religion and faith-based. Kent Hovind talks a lot about this, and I diverge with Kent Hovind on doctrine quite a bit. However, that guy did help wake me up to the fact that evolution was it's a gigantic house of cards, right? And he talks a lot about how it's a religion of science and how everything that they're teaching is faith-based, and it is, because they can't prove what they teach is fact, which is why it's still called the theory. It's not called the fact of evolution. It's called the theory, right? But they teach it as fact. But they can't prove it. We've never witnessed macroevolution ever in all of the history of humans being able to record stuff. We've never seen a chicken lay an egg and an alligator hatch from it. Every time there's a mutation, which the entire theory of evolution is based on mutations over time, every time we see a mutation, it's a loss of information. Right? The black moth and the white moth used to have babies that were black and white moths. Then it started to snow all the time and all the black moths were getting killed. So then it just started being white moths all the time. Right? That's a loss of information. They used to have the ability to make black and white moths. Now they can only make white moths. Right? And these birds used to be born with different beak sizes for different types of food. And then food started to disappear and then they only had the one beak size. It's a loss of information. Right? It's never a gain of information. And think about how much information is in our body. Like, there was a study I just saw recently. I want to say Founded Earth Brothers went over it. Wonderful, wonderful channel if you ever follow them on YouTube. But it's like bajillions of teraquads of information stored in the human body alone. Like just the amount of information stored in us to breathe and to walk is like unreal. Like, we put a computer to shame. Maybe we don't have the ability to use all of it like a computer, but it's there. It is there. And the basic functions of our body require massive amounts of stored data. So we're literally walking supercomputers created by Yah. But again, when have you ever seen a gain of information in, like, it would take so much massive gain of information for a little amoeba to turn into a fish, and then that fish to turn into a reptile, and that reptile to turn into whatever, right? So I'm just saying, where did the data come from, right? Because in observation, which is what the real scientific method is, it has to be testable, observable, and repeatable. That's the scientific method. Evolution doesn't fit that. Big Bang doesn't fit that. Even gravity doesn't fit that, right? So if we have never been able to observe it, which we haven't, or test it, which we haven't, or repeat it, which we haven't, where'd that information come from? Right. So anyways, wisdom of this world's foolishness. But the perverted of heart becomes despised. There's certainly going to be. Verse 9, better to be lightly esteemed and have a servant than the highly esteemed who lacks bread. Right? And I don't think, talking about regular bread here, right? The bread of life. Man cannot survive on bread alone, but every word that comes out of Yah's mouth, right? So it's better to be lightly esteemed and only have a little than to have a lot and not have that bread of life. The righteous regards the life of his beast, but the compassion of the wrong is cruelty, right? And so, sorry, I'm getting parched. This is talking about taking care of animals. And honestly, you can even talk about other people in this, because I don't subscribe to this, but the people in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement and the people who are on like the mirror version of that, the serpent seed people, they basically, like the white people who are serpent seed believers, believe that the black people are the beast of the Bible, and then vice versa. Like the black people in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement believe that the white people are the beast. It's ridiculous. Skin color is never a thing in the Bible. I'm not even going to get into all of that. You guys know how I feel, and I've done tons of videos with scripture that utterly destroy both sides of that argument. But either way, if you believe that somebody else is the beast of the field, right, then you're supposed to have regard for their life. You're supposed to care and be compassionate. Certainly not treating people like these Black Hebrew Israelites or these serpent seed believers treat other people. And then what it's really getting at, in my opinion, is the animals, right? You're supposed to, if something is in your care, you're not supposed to be cruel and evil, right? Like if you own a dog, you're not supposed to have them just for them to be like a punching bag. You know, you're not supposed to just take your anger and aggression out on them, right? Care for them. You're supposed to care for them, right? Like, you guys seen, I love my little doggies. They're like family members to me. In fact, before we had kids, they were the closest thing I had to kids. So you're supposed to care for them. If you want to take on the responsibility of life, care for it. Be compassionate towards it. Don't be cruel and evil. It should be a given, but the Bible tells you obviously what you're supposed to do. Verse 11, he who tills his land is satisfied with bread, but he who pursues vanities is lacking heart. And you know, I just want to give my 2 cents on this matter. When it comes to the Bible, it talks a lot about being satisfied and content with whatever Yah has given you. And sometimes he increases it, sometimes he takes it away, and sometimes it just stays the same. Right? We see it in the Bible, and you've seen it in your own lives, but right here. But the one who tills his land is satisfied with bread, right? He's happy with what Yah has given him. He just wants to take care of what Yah has given him, do what he's supposed to do, and he's satisfied with that. But this person pursuing vanities, right? Pursuing the luxuries and the comforts and all the stuff that this world has to offer, seeking more power, more money, more this, that, and the other thing, right? It says he's lacking heart, right? And it's just like, well, what does it mean to have a right heart in the Bible? Whose heart are you supposed to be like, right? Or have, right? Because the Holy Spirit gives you a heart of flesh, which causes you to be careful to obey the Most High. And then you got to look at the good examples in the Bible of people who had the right heart posture, like David, right? His heart was always inclined to the Most High, a man after Yah's own heart, right? And that's what we're supposed to be like. We're not supposed to pursue the vanities. We're supposed to pursue the important things in the Bible, right? A relationship with Yah. The kingdom that is to come, not the kingdom here that is perishing away. And if you're pursuing this kingdom, then you do lack heart. You lack a biblical heart anyways, right? Because you're wanting the blessings and the luxuries of this world. You're not willing to give it up, on faith for the kingdom to come, on faith for eternity, right? So, I would say that's lacking heart. Verse 12. The wrong shall covet the catch of evildoers, right? So what are people doing that's evil? And do you want that, right? The wrong shall covet the catch of evildoers. So if you're, I hate to say it, but if you're, pawing after wicked gain or unrighteous things, right? It's putting you in the wrong here. And you need to acknowledge that and understand it and turn away, repent. Hey, I am really sorry I feel this way. I'm really sorry I was coveting that. I wanted that thing. It is wrong. It is wrong. I'm going to take those thoughts captive. I'm going to control that. But the root of the righteous yields fruit. Again, best chapter in the Bible that talks about what it means to bear fruit, Psalm chapter 1. Hands down, short chapter. It's like 6 verses. It really spells out for you what it means to bear fruit for the kingdom. So, you need to be righteous, and if you're righteous, which means you're obedient to God, you're bearing fruit. And that's exactly what this says. But the root of the righteous yields fruit. All right, so, anyways, go read Psalm chapter 1. In the transgression of the lips is an evil snare, but the righteous gets out of distress. From the fruit of his mouth, one is filled with good, right? That's how you know them by their fruits, right? It's not always what comes out of someone's mouth, though. We all know that, right? You can't just, if I'm always like, oh, yeah, I'm a good, godly, righteous person, and then I turn around and I run a shady business, and like I doesn't bother me to cheat on my wife. It doesn't bother me to, get rich off schemes, whatever, right? Then fruit's rotten. Doesn't matter what my words say, right? But out of the abundance of the heart flows the mouth, right? So whatever is filled up in someone's heart, usually that's going to pour out of their mouth in most cases. All right, so from the fruit of his mouth, one is filled with good, and the work of a man's hands is given back to him. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes. That's why I keep telling you guys to read your Bible and acknowledge what it says and do it. Put it into practice, right? Don't define these things based off what's right in your own eyes. And that's what the church has done. I'm sorry, but they have redefined all of it. They redefined righteousness. They redefined wickedness, all of it. Go into your church. If you're still a mainstream Christian going to a mainstream church, I dare you to go up to your pastor and ask him what the definition of righteousness is. And then ask him to show you it in the Bible. Say, where does it talk about dispensations in the Bible? Where does it talk about, Christ's righteousness is imputed upon? They're going to give you probably, just based off experience, a misquote from Paul somewhere. And they're going to ignore the dozens and dozens of times in Scripture it's already defined it for you. And they'll even ignore where Paul matches the definition in the rest of the Bible. Just like they'll say, it says in Paul's letters that Christ's righteousness is imputed upon you. It doesn't actually say that anywhere, right? But that's what they'll tell you because that's what they were taught by their fathers. We don't need to get into that, but Ezekiel 22:26 pretty much spells that one out. I think it's 22:26 in that neighborhood. Anyways, so I'm just saying, right, they will probably misquote it to you and ignore all the times. Like Paul even says that righteousness is obedience to the Most High in Romans 6:16, right? So what is it? It can't be both things. You can't rewrite it, right? So if Yah defines something, you can find it a lot more than once in the Bible. And if they can't show you where it is in the Bible, or they show you what they think is one time, it doesn't overwrite the dozens and dozens of other times it says it in the Bible. Right? And I'm just saying, they'll try. Right? It's never actually in there. Everything they show you is out of context and misused, and under a little bit of scrutiny shatters, and you probably will be told to, oh, just trust us, or get out of here, stop talking, or maybe you should find a different church. Like that kind of stuff's going to start popping up when you start questioning the narrative and the doctrine, and then they realize that they can't actually prove it to you with what the Bible says. Going to be a big house of cards there. But again, don't do what's right in your own eyes. I've been mentioning the Judges study a lot that wrapped up not too long ago on YouTube here. A lot of the time in Judges, they were doing what was right in their own eyes. And how often did that work out for them? Let me give you just a little example here. This much. It worked out this much when they were doing what was right in their own eyes. It never, ever worked out. So a fool is right in his own eyes, right? Which means he can't prove it with the Bible because it's not the word of Yah. It's what's right in his own eyes. So don't be a fool. Yah defines things for you. Yah guides you. Let him be the lamp that lights your path. Don't do it yourself because it doesn't work. If biblical history and just history in general have shown us, it doesn't work. Okay? But he who listens to advice is wise. What advice are you supposed to get? Biblically sound scriptural advice from the mouth of Yah, from his prophets, from the disciples, from our Messiah. That is the advice you're supposed to take. The wise advice. Right? If it ain't in the Bible, it's probably not very wise. Just throwing that one out there. A fool's wrath is known at once, but a clever one covers shame. Yep. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, because the truth is righteous, the law of Yah, all over the Bible. Psalm 119, 142, Yeshua is the word made flesh. That's why he's righteous. Right, so anyway, and he's the truth. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, but a false witness, deceit. Rash speaking is like piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is healing. Or it should be, anyways, to those who actually can hear wisdom and want to observe it. Right? To everybody else, right? The righteousness you're speaking, the biblical righteousness, it's gonna feel like you're stabbing them over and over again because they want to stay in the darkness. They want to stay in the wickedness, right? So the truth is a piercing sword to them. Right? Sword coming out of your mouth. That's what he was talking about in the New Testament. I'll fight with you with the sword of my mouth. Right? So it'll feel like a sword to people with the wrong heart posture, but people with the right heart posture, it's going to be healing words to them. So you're going to be like, oh, that's what it means to get into eternity. Got it. I'm going to do that. Verse 19. The lip of truth is established forever. Again, when Yah says forever, pretty sure he knows what that means. So I doubt he went and changed his own definition of truth. But that is what the church, the mainstream church, would have you believe. And I hate to critique them so hard because it's not like I don't think there's not good, people in the Bible, people that are in the Bible. Of course, there's good people in the Bible. A lot of bad people in the Bible too. But there's good people in the church. I do believe. Now, again, I know what the Bible says in Matthew 19, no one is good but Yah, and I understand that. But from our perspective, generally speaking, not biblically speaking, I think there's a lot of good people that are in the church that actually do believe in the Messiah. They really do believe that Yeshua is the Messiah, he is the Son of Yah, and he is our salvation. I know that most of them probably believe that. However, they just don't want to do what Yah asked us to do, and they like the excuses, and it's just, I don't know. It's really sad. It's heartbreaking, really, because there's so much potential, and they just throw it all away because what? You don't want to keep his Sabbath? You don't want to keep his dietary laws? Because you prefer rebranded pagan holidays over the ones he gave you in the Bible? Like, why? This is not a good reason. All right, anyways. Verse 19. The lip of truth is established forever. Forever, like his laws, forever. He says that a lot of times in the Torah. But a lying tongue is but for a moment, right? Because it's going to perish away. If you go read Revelation 21 and 22, one of the groups of people that is outside of the kingdom is the liars. So we need to work on that, right? Our tongue speaking truth. Deceit is in the heart of those who plot evil, but counselors of peace have joy. No harm befalls the righteous. And now let me get this, let me just clear this up for you. And I know, again, talked about it before, beating a dead horse here, but on the off chance you're brand new and you made it 45 minutes into this thing with me, there are righteous people in the Bible that were obviously not treated well, right? Had a lot of harm come upon them. Almost all of the prophets were murdered and imprisoned. All of the disciples were murdered or imprisoned, right? Yeshua, the most righteous human that ever lived, ever, look what they did to him, right? They imprisoned him, they beat him, they crucified him, right? Harm comes on righteous people in this world, but we're thinking in, like, if you look at that and think, well, you know, the Bible literally proves, like, how could he say this? The Bible proves that all these righteous people suffer harm in this world. And it even says the world's going to hate you and be your enemy when you're doing what Yah asked you to do, when you're walking in righteousness, right? The Bible clearly says that, and the world clearly hates righteous people, but we're thinking from a one-dimensional perspective here. We're thinking from our understanding. Now, think about this. This is our test, right? I mean, the Bible says this is our test. This world is our test to see if what we're going to do. All right, are we really going to seek after him? Are we going to choose the world over his ways? But what is, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years in the grand scheme of eternity? Literally says that he's going to wipe away every tear. And there's parts of the Apocrypha that say that, like, none of this will even be remembered. Like, it's just going to be like a distant, fading memory that you don't even care about. Because righteousness and the love you're going to feel with Yah and his king, it's just going to be so overwhelming. You're going to be like, whatever. I would do that 60 years over a million times again to be in this moment, to be in eternity like this with you, right? So if we're thinking from a one-dimensional human perspective, this doesn't make any sense. But if we're thinking from a heavenly forever perspective, then it makes perfect sense. Because no true harm is going to befall the righteous. Not in the grand scheme of things. Not from Yah's perspective. He already knows what's going to happen. Right? So if they get to live forever in love and joy and peace, no real harm fell on them. Right? And if you can't even remember at some point the harm that did fall on you, was it really even harm? You know? And it's hard to have that perspective here on this. Trust me. I wrestle with it all the time. I'm not immune to these thoughts like you are. Obviously, in this life, we have hardship, we have suffering, we have pain, we have health issues, we lose people that we love. Our stability is constantly on shaky ground. Like, oh, am I going to lose my job? Oh, is there going to be war? And are they going to come and kill my family? Like, that kind of stuff is not uncommon in this world for pretty much all of human history up for this last 6,000 years on this earth. Right? But again, if this is just, and again, I keep saying it again, and again, in the New Testament, right, in James, and in the book of Enoch, which, if you were in that study with me, it talks about how this life is a breath passing away. It is like mist that evaporates when the sun comes up and hits it. Like, it's just a very, very short amount of time. It's a grain of sand on the beach, a drop of water in the ocean. It's one leaf on the biggest tree, like, it's just nothing. Really, if you're thinking from a forever perspective. If you're thinking from Yah's perspective, then really no harm did befall them. They went through hardship in this world, which is but a breath passing away. Right? And then they get all eternity for their performance here. They get all of eternity. Righteousness, joy, peace, love. I can't even imagine what the kingdom's like. Right? This world's so foreign to the ways of Yah that it's really hard to picture what it's going to be like. But I got the tiniest little snapshot of it. Whether it's what put me on this path in the first place. Yah had enough grace and mercy to spare my life and put me on a path leading me up to this point. Right? So I did get the tiniest little taste of it. And I got to tell you, I wish I could live in that moment over and over again. I wish I could just stay in that moment forever. It is hard to describe. It left as quickly as it came, but it was the most profound experience of my entire life. I will never be able to truly describe it to somebody. I've tried, I've done it in videos, and it just doesn't do it justice. I don't even know what I felt. Like, it's really hard to describe. It's like if love wasn't just like a concept, like if it was a tangible thing that you could reach out and touch and wrap yourself on and pour into yourself in like the warmest, softest, lovingest way possible. Like, I can't describe it to you. I got a quick, just tiny snapshot of it. And it's better than anything I've ever experienced on this earth. And I haven't experienced everything on this earth, but I've experienced most of the ways that people find to dull or change this earth. Right? A lot of people get drunk, they use drugs, whatever. Everybody has their vice to try and mute this world, right? And none of the things that I ever did hold a candle to that moment of love I experienced that is not an earthly thing, not an earthly love, not of this world. What I experienced was not of this world. So I do know that whatever's waiting is going to be far better than what this world has to offer, but it's hard to focus on that in this world when the bills are piling up and your relationship is collapsing and you're about to lose your job and you think war is coming to your doorstep, or you're on your deathbed because of whatever disease or sickness, or constantly in pain or in grief or some form of suffering. Like, it's hard to hold on to those things, that feeling that it's going to be better to come. When you're suffering, like, the shortest amount of time can feel like forever. I mean, forever. When I, just like a quick example, when my appendix ruptured, if you guys were following me then, it was about 2 years ago now-ish. When my appendix ruptured, it was just the most horrible pain that I have felt in a very long time. It was not pleasant feeling at all, and I was just laying there for, like, it started out, for a few days. I tried to tough it out, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it got to a point where I'm like, I have no choice. I have to go to a doctor. I feel like I'm dying, like, and not in like a quick and easy way. It was just miserable. And lying there, it took from the time I got to the hospital until they brought me into surgery, man, probably like 14 hours, 16 hours, in that neighborhood. And the whole time, I was just laying there just in agony. And they did give me painkillers, which I'm not going to get into the worldly medications and pharmakia. I don't agree with pharmakia. I did not want it, but it was one of those things. And I'm like, okay, I try to avoid, like, I don't even take Tylenol. I don't take Tylenol. I don't take Advil. I try to avoid every like synthetic drug you can get, over the counter or not. I don't want to take them anymore, and I haven't for a very long time. But they were giving me a painkiller, and I don't know which one it was. I think it was pretty potent, though. That's what they told me. And it was like barely taking the edge off. I mean, it was like it made it better for like a little while, like 45 minutes, an hour. But even in that time frame, like I knew it was better, but it was still like just excruciating. And that 14, 16 hours, and the whole thing was like, I don't know, 4 days, right, from start to finish. It felt like a year, and when I was in that hospital, it felt far longer than 14 hours. And, if those of you that don't like going to the gym but ever have, if you go do a wall squat, right, I hate those things. I hate them, utterly hate them. But you get into that position and, 30 seconds feels like a day, your thighs and all the muscles in your legs and your back are just, they feel like they're on fire and your legs are just shaking. If you're good at wall squats, man, good for you. I'm not. And I never have, even when I was in shape. I'm not in like the best of shape now. I don't go out and jog anymore. But wall squats were never something I found enjoyment in. And it can just feel like it lasts forever, So again, all of that to say, I do understand, how you guys could be feeling, some of you. And I don't know all your situations, obviously, but I do understand how, the suffering can feel like it is never ending. I can't even imagine how Job felt. Those of you that went through the Job study with me, Job had it way worse than any of us, and I bet it just felt like it was never going to end. And then when he snaps towards the end of the book, when he finally gets to like his tipping point, right before Yah puts him, in his place and humbles him, like I feel that. I get it. I'm like, man, I don't think I would have held up as good as Job did. That's for darn sure. But it can feel like forever, but we're in the very beginning of eternity here. We're in the snapshot, the blink of an eye, so we just have to try. And again, I know it's hard, and I'm speaking to myself as much as any one of you, but we got to try to remember that it's not forever. It's not permanent. It's not, the end of the line here. It's not suffering forever. We have to try to remember that and conquer until the end, as our Messiah instructed us. And I know, easier said than done, right? I'm not trying to be a hypocrite about it. I know many of you are experiencing health problems that just seem horrible. A lot of you have reached out to me about your experiences and what you're going through and asked for prayers. And like some of the situations that some of you guys are in, I can only imagine how you feel. Like it's just never going to end. Like your suffering is just forever until you die. And, maybe it is. I don't know everybody's situation. I don't know Yah's plan or his timing other than what he tells us in the Bible. But I do know that this life is not forever. And I do know, based off of my snapshot, that whatever is waiting is better than anything that this world has to offer. So you just got to try to hold on to that. Just try to remember. Grab on to it and hold by your faith. Remember Habakkuk 2:4, my righteous one, my obedient one, shall live by his faith. We got to try to do that. We got to try to be that. In good and in bad. All right. Let's go back from 19. The lip of truth is established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Deceit is in the heart of those who plot evil, but counselors of peace have joy. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wrong shall be filled with evil. And they are. Lying lips an abomination to Yahweh, and he doesn't let abominations into his kingdom, so we want to make sure we're not doing that. Lying lips an abomination to Yahweh, and those who deal truly are his delight. I want to be his delight, not an abomination to him. A clever man is concealing knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims folly. Again, we can get into possible meanings of this one, but just at the end of the day, right, we've already talked about what real knowledge is, right? And you need to hold that in your heart. Like, not like you maybe conceal isn't the best word usage here, the best translation, but you need to have that in your heart. You need to store it up in here, hide it in there, conceal it, right? For lack of a better term, I can see what he's getting at with this translation, but got to store it in there, stash it in there, right? His knowledge needs to be in there. But the heart of fools is just going to proclaim folly, wickedness, destruction, worldly things, right? Verse 24, the hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor, right? And again, this could very seriously have, kingdom or punishment consequences. Work for the kingdom, work for righteousness, work for a good relationship, labor for it, right? A labor of love. Now, I'm sure this translates into like actual jobs as well. But in my eyes, in the moment, when I see the hands of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor, I'm feeling like it is a spiritual relationship matter. Could be wrong, and again, I'm sure it's multifaceted. It probably means jobs as well. Because, again, if you're just like a lazy person, generally don't make the best employees, and you're just put to some menial, stupid task that no one has any faith or trust in you. Not a good place to be in. But if I'm looking at this from like a working for the kingdom, working for, his heart, working for the relationship, it makes a little bit more sense in my eyes that way. But again, there can be multiple meanings here. That one could be true, the other could be true. They could all be true. So take that one how you will, however it makes sense to you. Verse 25, anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes him glad. The righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wrong leads them astray. And again, we know that righteousness is obedience to Yah. The Bible tells us that. So a righteous person is a guide to his neighbor. And his neighbor can be anybody, right? Not just your literal neighbor across the street. It can be the nation next to you, right? Like when you look at the Bible, Yah's people, Israel, right, were supposed to be the torchbearers. They were supposed to be the representatives of Yah to the world. And then we see pretty quickly it goes off the rails and they start turning worldly and wicked themselves, and, well, it don't work out good for them. But they were supposed to carry the torch, right? And they were supposed to lead the world in righteousness. They were supposed to guide their neighbors, right? The other nations around them in righteousness. And the other nations were supposed to look at Israel and be like, dang, those people are the people, man. They are holy, righteous, awesome, loving, just. I want everything they got. I want to be part of that, right? That's what it was supposed to be, the outcome of Israel carrying the torch for Yah. And just so many times they drop the ball, but if you're righteous, right, you're going to lead your neighbor, which can be anyone back here, anyone, right? Anyone that's willing to listen, be a guide to them, right? Try to lead them in righteousness. Verse 27, the lazy one has no game to roast, but the hard worker prizes his possessions. In the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway there is no death. And you can find that back in the Torah. Like, path of righteousness, obedience leads to life. The path of disobedience leads to curses and death. All over the Torah. So, again, pretty obvious there. One more time. In the way of righteousness is life, and its pathway there is no death. Right? This is why Yah is the God of the living, not the God of the dead. Because he's not their God. They're not going to come back. Right? They've chose the path of death, and death so shall it be. Right? But that's why Yeshua said, let the dead bury the dead, and he is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. So, anyways, I love you guys. Thanks for studying. That was chapter 12. Yah willing, we'll pick it up next week from chapter 13. But thank you guys for spending some of your time in Proverbs with me. If you have any questions, concerns, anything you want to chat about, feel free to reach out to me as always, sheepdogministries@hotmail.com. Again, thank you for spending some of your time with me. I always love having you guys and studying with you. A lot of you sharpen my sword as much as I may sharpen yours. So thank you for that. Thank you for being part of my family and community. I just wish we weren't so spread apart, all over. Like, if you guys were in the live stream I did on Shabbat, I think last week was the one, I said, hey, everybody throw out where you are. Maybe there's someone close to you. And we were everywhere. We were all over, and I have people that follow me from, Uganda and Switzerland and Australia, all over the world. And we're just spread so far apart, right? One day we won't be. One day we'll be literal neighbors. And I want you guys as neighbors because you are some awesome people. And the fact that you're even here studying this with me and trying to correct your lives just shows how awesome you are. So thank you for that. And I can't wait till you are my literal neighbor. And I hope to see you guys soon. I hope to see you guys soon. But in the meantime, may the Most High bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you wonderful peace. In the name of our Messiah, Yeshua. Love you guys. I hope you have a blessed rest of your week. Yah willing, I'll see you soon.